Marcus Cole had been flying cargo ships for 20 years. He had seen many strange things in the deep parts of space. He had seen dead planets and dying stars. He had seen ships torn apart by pirates and stations abandoned in the dark. But he had never seen anything like this. The signal came through his radio at 3 in the morning, ship time. Marcus was sleeping in his small cabin when the alarm woke him up. He rubbed his eyes and walked to the control room of his ship, the Drifter. The coffee machine was broken again, so he had to wake up without it. The signal was weak. Very weak. His computer almost missed it completely. It was a distress call, but it was old. The computer said the signal had been repeating for maybe 80 years or more. Nobody had heard it because nobody came to this part of space. This was the dead zone beyond the galactic rim. There was nothing here except empty space and forgotten things. Marcus sat in his chair and thought about it. He was a cargo hauler now, not a rescue pilot. He had left that job 10 years ago after too many bad nights and too many people he could not save. Now he just moved boxes from one station to another. Simple work. Safe work. Work that let him sleep at night, but the signal kept repeating. Someone had sent it a long time ago. Someone had been asking for help for 80 years, and nobody had come. Marcus swore quietly and changed his course. He told himself he was just curious. He told himself he might find something valuable to sell. He told himself many things, but deep inside, he knew the truth. He could not ignore someone asking for help. He never could. It took him 6 hours to reach the source of the signal. When he got there, he saw the wreckage of a ship floating in the darkness. It was not a human ship. The design was strange and beautiful, with long curved lines and a silver surface that still reflected the distant stars. But it was broken. Something had torn it apart many years ago. Weapons fire, maybe. Or an explosion from inside. Marcus flew the Drifter slowly around the wreckage. His scanners searched for life signs. He did not expect to find any. After 80 years, there should be nothing alive in that broken ship. But the scanner beeped. One life sign. Very weak. Almost gone. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. He put on his spacesuit and prepared to go outside. The wreckage was too damaged for him to dock his ship, so he had to float across the empty space between them. The cold of space pressed against his suit as he moved through the darkness toward the broken ship. Inside, the alien ship was dark and silent. His flashlight showed him walls covered in strange writing and floors covered in dust. He followed his scanner toward the life sign, moving through broken hallways and past sealed doors. He found her in a small room near the center of the ship. She was inside a glass pod, like the ones humans used for long sleep during space travel. But this one was very old, and it was failing. Red lights blinked on its surface. Warning signs that Marcus could not read flashed on a small screen. He looked at the person inside the pod. She was young, maybe 18 or 20 years old by human standards. Her skin was pale blue, like the color of a winter sky. Her hair was long and white, floating gently inside the pod. On her skin, there were small marks that glowed faintly, like tiny stars. She was beautiful. And she was dying. Marcus did not think. He just acted. He grabbed the pod and started pulling it back toward his ship. It was heavy, but the zero gravity helped him move it. His arms burned with effort as he dragged it through the broken hallways, out of the wreckage, and across the empty space to the Drifter. Getting the pod inside his cargo hold was hard. Getting it connected to his ship's power was harder. Marcus was not a doctor or a scientist. He was just a cargo hauler with basic medical training and a first aid kit. But he worked for hours, trying to stabilize the pod, trying to keep the girl inside alive. The pod's power was almost gone. The stasis field that had kept her alive for 80 years was failing. Marcus had to wake her up, or she would die in her sleep. He found a button that looked important and pressed it. The pod hissed and opened. Cold air flowed out, and the girl fell forward into his arms. She was so light, like she was made of paper. Her skin was cold against his hands. Marcus carried her to his small medical bay. He put her on the bed and covered her with blankets. He connected her to his medical machines and watched the screens. Her heart was beating, but it was slow. Too slow. Her body was weak from years of sleeping without proper nutrition. He started in 4-line and gave her fluids. He gave her nutrients through a tube. He did everything he knew how to do, and then he sat beside her and waited. She woke up once during that first night. Her eyes opened, and they were silver, like polished metal. She looked at Marcus with fear and confusion. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak and broken. The translator in Marcus's ship struggled with her language. It was old, and the computer did not have a perfect match. But it caught one word that she repeated again and again. Mother. Marcus did not know what to say. He held her hand gently and spoke in a soft voice. He told her she was safe. He told her he would help her. He told her everything would be okay. She fell asleep again, her fingers wrapped around his hand. Marcus stayed with her through the night, watching the medical screens and making sure she kept breathing. He did not know who she was. He did not know where she came from or what had happened to her ship. He did not know why she had been floating in the darkness for 80 years while nobody came to find her. But he knew one thing. She was alive, and he was going to keep her that way. In the morning, Marcus made soup. It was simple soup, just water and nutrients, but it was warm. He fed it to her slowly, spoon by spoon, when she woke up again. She watched him with those silver eyes, still scared, still confused. But she ate the soup. He called her little star in his mind because of the glowing marks on her skin. He did not know her real name. She was too weak to tell him. For 3 days, Marcus took care of her. He fed her and gave her medicine. He talked to her even though she could not understand most of his words. He played old music on his ship's speakers because he thought it might help her feel less alone. Slowly, she got stronger. The color came back to her face. Her heartbeat grew steady. She started to sit up in bed and look around at the strange human ship that had become her home. Marcus did not think about reward or payment. He did not think about what she might be worth or who might be looking for her. He just thought about keeping her alive. That was all that mattered. He had no idea that he was carrying a princess. He had no idea that her mother had been searching for her for 87 years. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness would change the relationship between humans and aliens forever. He was just a cargo hauler who could not ignore someone asking for help. And that made all the difference. The nearest station was 2 days away. Marcus pushed the drifter as fast as it could go. The girl in his medical bay was getting stronger, but she needed real doctors. She needed medicine that he did not have. She needed help that a simple cargo hauler could not give. He had learned a few things about her during those 2 days. Her name was hard to say in human words, so she accepted Little Star when he called her that. She smiled a little when he said it, which made Marcus happy. She was starting to trust him, even though they could barely understand each other. The translator in his ship worked better now. It had been listening to her speak and learning her language. She told him small things. She remembered a garden with blue flowers. She remembered a woman with a kind voice who sang to her at night. She remembered fire and screaming, and then cold darkness. She did not remember how she got into the stasis pod. She did not remember how long she had been asleep. When Marcus told her it had been 87 years, she went very quiet. She looked at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Marcus did not push her for more. He just made her soup and told her stories about Earth. He told her about the ocean and the mountains and the cities full of people. She listened with wide silver eyes, like a child hearing fairy tales. On the second day, they reached the edge of Velen space. Marcus knew about the Velen. Everyone did. They were one of the oldest and most powerful alien races in the galaxy. They kept to themselves mostly. They did not hate humans, but they did not like them either. They thought humans were young and loud and messy. Marcus had traded with the Velen a few times. He knew their stations and their rules. He knew that they valued order and tradition above everything else. He also knew that they had the best doctors in this part of space. He sent a message to the nearest Velen station asking for medical help. He explained that he had found a sick girl in a wrecked ship and that she needed care. He waited for a response. The response came faster than he expected. It was not from the station. A Velen warship dropped out of faster-than-light travel right in front of the drifter. It was huge, 10 times the size of his little cargo ship. Its weapons were pointed at him. Marcus raised his hands, even though nobody could see him. He opened the communication channel and tried to stay calm. A face appeared on his screen. It was a Velen male with dark blue skin and cold yellow eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals. His voice was sharp, like a knife. "Human vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will result in your destruction." Marcus stopped his engines. He did not resist. He was not stupid. The Velen soldiers came aboard, the drifter with weapons ready. Their leader was the male from the screen. His name was Commander Thalos, and he looked at Marcus like he was looking at garbage. "Where is she?" Commander Thalos demanded. Marcus was confused. "Where is who?" "Do not play games with me, human. We tracked the signal from that ship. We know what was inside it. Where is she?" Marcus understood then. They were looking for a little star. He did not know why they cared so much about one sick girl, but he could see that this was serious. "She is in my medical bay," Marcus said. "She is sick. She needs help." Commander Thalos pushed past him and walked toward the medical bay. His soldiers followed. Marcus followed them, worried about what they might do. The door to the medical bay opened. Little Star was sitting up in bed, looking scared. When she saw the Velen soldiers, she pulled the blanket up to her chest like a shield. Commander Thalos stopped in the doorway. His whole body went stiff. The angry look on his face disappeared. It was replaced by something else. Something Marcus did not expect. Shock, and then wonder, and then pain. Commander Thalos looked at the glowing marks on Little Star's skin. He looked at her silver eyes and her white hair. His hands started to shake. "It is not possible," he whispered. He stepped forward slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear. He fell to his knees beside her bed. When he spoke again, his voice was broken. "Princess Sierra, we searched for you for 30 years. We sent 100 ships into the darkness. We never stopped looking. And then we stopped hoping." Little Star stared at him. Her eyes were wide with confusion. "I do not understand," she said. "Who are you?" "My name is Thalos. I was your mother's guard when you were young. I used to carry you on my shoulders through the palace gardens. Do you not remember?" Sierra shook her head slowly. "I do not remember. I only remember the fire, and the cold, and the dark." Tears fell from Commander Thalos's eyes. Velen tears were dark blue, like ink. They left marks on his cheeks. "The Queen never stopped waiting for you," he said. "Every year on the day you disappeared, she lights a candle and sits alone in your room. 87 candles, princess. 87 years of grief." Marcus stood in the doorway, feeling like he did not belong there. He was watching something private, something painful, but he could not look away. Commander Thalos turned to look at him. The cold anger was gone from his face. Now there was only wonder, You found her, the commander said. You found our princess. I did not know she was a princess, Marcus said. I just knew she was dying. I could not leave her there. You saved her. You fed her. You cared for her. The commander stood up and faced Marcus directly. The signal from that ship was so old and so weak. 100 Velen ships passed through that region and never heard it. How did you hear it? Marcus shrugged. I was in the right place at the right time. And I was listening. Commander Thalos was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that Marcus had never seen a Velen do before. He bowed his head to a human. I have misjudged your kind, he said. I thought humans were careless and selfish. I thought you cared only about money and power. But you found our lost princess in the darkness and carried her toward the light. You asked for nothing in return. I still do not want anything in return, Marcus said. I just want her to be okay. Commander Thalos nodded slowly. She will be. The Queen's doctors are the best in the Empire. They will heal her body and her mind. He paused. The Queen will want to meet you. She will want to thank you herself. Marcus felt uncomfortable. That is not necessary. I am just a cargo hauler. I am not important. You are important now, Commander Thalos said. You brought a princess home. You ended 87 years of mourning. You gave a mother her daughter back. That is more important than anything. Sira reached out and touched Marcus's hand. Her fingers were still weak, but her grip was strong. He calls me Little Star, she told Commander Thalos. He plays music for me and tells me stories about his world. He makes me soup. The commander looked at Marcus with new eyes. Not with anger or suspicion, but with something like respect. Little Star, he repeated. That is a good name for you, princess. You always did shine brighter than anyone else. Marcus watched as Commander Thalos contacted the Queen. He watched as more Velen ships arrived to escort them to the capital world. He watched as doctors came aboard the drifter and examined Sira with careful hands and gentle voices. He was just a cargo hauler from Earth. He had been sleeping in his ship, minding his own business, when he heard an old signal in the darkness. He had not expected any of this, but life was strange that way. Sometimes the smallest decisions led to the biggest changes. Sometimes one act of kindness could reshape the whole galaxy. Marcus did not know what would happen next. He did not know how the Queen would react to seeing her daughter after 87 years. He did not know what his role would be in all of this, but he knew that he had done the right thing. And that was enough. For now, that was enough. The Velen flagship was called the Light of Dawn. It was the largest ship Marcus had ever seen. It was like a floating city, with towers and domes and gardens visible through its great windows. Thousands of Velen lived and worked inside it. And somewhere inside it, the Queen was waiting. Marcus felt very small as the drifter docked with the flagship. His little cargo ship looked like a toy next to the great Velen vessel. The walls of his ship were scratched and dented. The paint was faded. The engine made strange noises sometimes. It was not a ship fit for royalty, but the Velen did not seem to care about his ship. They cared about what was inside it. Commander Thalos came aboard with a team of doctors and guards. The doctors went to check on Sarah. The guards stood at every door, watching for danger. Commander Thalos stayed with Marcus. The Queen is coming, he said. She insisted on seeing her daughter here, in the ship where she was saved. She wants to see where Princess Sira has been living for the past 3 days. Marcus looked around at his small, dirty cargo ship. The coffee machine was still broken. There were food containers stacked in the corner. His dirty clothes were piled on a chair. This is not a good place for a queen, Marcus said. This is the perfect place, Commander Thalos replied. This is where her daughter was reborn. This is where hope returned to the Empire. Marcus did not know what to say to that. He just started picking up his dirty clothes and hiding them in a closet. The Queen arrived an hour later. She came aboard the drifter with no guards and no servants. She came alone, wearing a simple silver dress instead of royal robes. Her skin was the same pale blue as her daughter's. Her hair was the same white color. But her eyes were different. They were not silver like Syrah's. They were deep purple, like the color of a bruise, like the color of grief that never heals. Marcus had seen pictures of Queen Lyris before. All humans had. She was famous throughout the galaxy as the ruler of one of the oldest empires in history. In the pictures, she always looked strong and proud and distant, like a statue made of ice. But the woman who walked onto his ship was not a statue. She was a mother. Her hands were shaking. Her breath was quick and shallow. Her eyes were wet with tears that had not yet fallen. She walked through the drifter without looking at anything around her. She did not see the broken coffee machine or the food containers or the scratched walls. She saw only the door to the medical bay. She saw only the path to her daughter. The door opened. Syrah was sitting up in bed, looking stronger than before. The Velen doctors had given her medicine that was helping her heal. She was still weak, but she was awake and alert. When she saw the Queen, something changed in her face. A memory, maybe. A feeling from long ago. Her eyes went wide, and her lips started to tremble. "Mother?" She whispered. Queen Lyris made a sound that was not a word. It was something older than words. It was the sound of a heart breaking and healing at the same time. She rushed forward and fell to her knees beside the bed. She gathered her daughter in her arms and held her like she would never let go. They stayed like that for a long time. The Queen crying into her daughter's hair. Syrah crying into her mother's shoulder. 87 years of separation pouring out in tears and whispers and soft sounds of love. Marcus stepped back toward the door. He felt like he was seeing something too private, too sacred. He tried to leave quietly, but the Queen's voice stopped him. "Wait," he turned around. Queen Lyris was looking at him over her daughter's shoulder. Her purple eyes were red from crying, but there was something burning in them now. Something fierce and bright. "You," she said. "You are the human who found her." "Yes, Your Majesty." The Queen gently let go of her daughter and stood up. She walked toward Marcus with slow, careful steps. He felt like a small animal being approached by a lion. He wanted to run, but he could not move. She stopped in front of him. She was tall for a Velen, almost as tall as Marcus. She looked at him with those burning purple eyes, studying his face, searching for something. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you save her?" Marcus did not understand the question. She was dying. That was all that mattered. But you did not know who she was. You did not know there would be a reward. You did not know anything about her. Why did you risk your life to save a stranger? Marcus thought about it. He thought about all the reasons he could give. He could talk about his training as a rescue pilot. He could talk about human values and morals. He could talk about the rules of space that said you always help someone in trouble. But those were not the real reasons. The real reason was simpler than that. "I heard her asking for help," he said. I could not say no. Queen Lyris stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She bowed to him. The Queen of the Velen Empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, bowed to a simple cargo hauler from Earth. "In 87 years," she said, "I have prayed to every god in the universe. I have sent ships to every corner of the galaxy. I have offered rewards that could buy planets. Nothing worked. Nobody found her." She straightened up and looked at him with tears falling down her face. "And then you came. A human in a broken little ship. You heard a signal that nobody else heard. You went to a place that nobody else would go. And you brought my daughter home." Marcus did not know what to say. He was not good with words. He was not good with emotions. He was just a guy who flew cargo ships and sometimes did the right thing. I was just doing what anyone would do, he said. No, Queen Lyra said. Not anyone. Not most people. Most people would have ignored the signal. Most people would have taken what was valuable and left the rest. Most people would have asked who she was before deciding to help. She shook her head slowly. You are different. Your people are different. I think I have been wrong about humans. Syrah's voice came from the bed. He calls me Little Star, Mother. He makes me soup and tells me stories. He stayed with me all night when I was scared. The Queen looked back at her daughter, then at Marcus again. Fresh tears were falling, but she was smiling now. It was a small smile, broken by grief and wonder, but it was real. Little Star, she repeated. Yes, she always did glow like a star. She took Marcus's hand in both of hers. Her skin was cool and soft. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have given me back my daughter. You have given me back my hope. You have given me back my reason to live. Marcus felt uncomfortable with all this attention. I do not need any reward, Your Majesty. I am just glad she is okay. That is exactly why you will receive one, Queen Lyra said. Because you did not ask for it. Because you did not expect it. Because you simply helped someone who needed help, and that was enough for you. She looked around at the drifter, at the scratched walls and the broken coffee machine and the piles of food containers. She looked at this ugly little human ship with eyes full of gratitude. This ship, she said. This is where my daughter was saved. This is where she learned to trust again. This is the most important ship in the galaxy. Marcus laughed a little. It does not look like it. That is what makes it beautiful, the Queen said. It does not look like anything special. Just like you do not look like anything special. But inside, where it matters, there is something rare, something precious, something that cannot be bought or made or copied. She squeezed his hand. There is kindness, she said. And kindness is the most powerful thing in the universe. Marcus stood there in his cargo ship, holding the hand of the most powerful woman in the galaxy, watching a mother and daughter reunite after 87 years. He still did not understand how he had ended up here. He still did not know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something that mattered. Not just moved boxes from one place to another. Not just survived another day in space. He had actually made a difference. And that feeling was worth more than any reward the Queen could give him. The capital world of the Volan Empire was called Valaris. It was a beautiful planet covered in blue forests and silver oceans. The cities were made of crystal and light. The air smelled like flowers that only grew on this world. Everything was clean and perfect, and ancient Marcus felt very out of place. He had been on Valaris for 2 weeks now. The Queen had insisted that he stay as her guest while Syrah recovered. She had given him rooms in the palace that were bigger than his entire ship. She had given him clothes made of silk and servants who brought him food and drink whenever he wanted. She had given him everything he could ask for, but Marcus was not comfortable with any of it. He missed his ship. He missed his simple life. He missed being able to make his own coffee, even if the machine was broken. The only thing that made it bearable was visiting. Syrah every day. Princess Syrah was getting stronger. The palace doctors had healed her body almost completely. She could walk now and talk, and even laugh sometimes. Her memories were coming back slowly, piece by piece. She remembered her childhood in the palace. She remembered her mother's songs. She remembered the garden with blue flowers where she used to play. She also remembered the attack that had destroyed her ship 87 years ago. It had been pirates, she said, or rebels, or something worse. They had come out of nowhere and torn her escort ships apart. Her guards had put her in a stasis pod and launched her into deep space, hoping someone would find her and save her. Nobody had found her. Not for 87 years. Not until Marcus came. I thought I was dead, Sira told him one day as they walked through the palace gardens. When the pod launched, I thought it was the end. I closed my eyes and waited for the darkness to take me forever. But it did not, Marcus said. No, it did not. Because of you. She looked at him with those silver eyes, and there was something warm in them. Something grateful. Something more. You saved me, Marcus. You gave me a second life. Marcus felt his face get hot. He was not used to this kind of attention. He was not used to having a princess look at him like he was a hero. I just did what anyone would do, he said, like he always did. No, Sira said, like everyone always said. You did what a good person would do. And good people are rarer than you think. The palace was preparing for a great ceremony. The queen wanted to officially welcome her daughter back to the empire. She wanted to show the whole galaxy that Princess Sira was alive and safe. She wanted to thank Marcus in front of everyone. Marcus did not want to attend the ceremony. He did not like crowds. He did not like being the center of attention. But the queen had asked him herself, and he could not say no. On the day of the ceremony, thousands of Velen gathered in the great hall of the palace. They wore their finest clothes and their brightest jewelry. They whispered to each other and looked toward the stage where the queen and princess would appear. Marcus stood near the stage in a borrowed suit that felt too tight. Commander Thalos was nearby, keeping an eye on everything. Security was very strict. There were guards at every door and every window. There were scanners checking everyone who entered, but somehow it was not enough. The queen stepped onto the stage first. The crowd went silent. She was wearing her royal robes now, covered in gems that sparkled like stars. She looked strong and proud and happy. For the first time in 87 years, she looked alive. My people, she said, her voice filling the great hall. Today we celebrate a miracle. Today we welcome home my daughter, Princess Sira, who was lost to us for so long. Today we also honor the one who found her. A human, a simple cargo hauler. A man who heard a cry for help in the darkness and could not ignore it. The crowd murmured. Humans were not popular in the Velen Empire. Many Velens still thought of humans as young and foolish and beneath them. The idea of a human being honored by the queen was strange and uncomfortable for some. Princess Sira walked onto the stage next. She was beautiful in a silver dress that matched her eyes. The glowing marks on her skin were bright and clear. She looked like something from a dream. The crowd gasped. Many of them had been alive when she disappeared. Many of them remembered the young princess who had smiled and waved from the palace windows. Seeing her again after all these years was like seeing a ghost come back to life. My daughter lives because of human kindness, the queen continued. She lives because one man chose to help a stranger. She lives because she never finished the sentence. A flash of light exploded from somewhere in the crowd. An energy blast, bright and hot, flying straight toward Princess Sira. Time seemed to slow down. Marcus saw the blast. He saw Sira standing there, frozen, unable to move. He saw the death coming for her. He did not think. He just moved. Marcus threw himself in front of Sira. The energy blast hit him in the shoulder like a hammer made of fire. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to the ground, smoke rising from the wound. Blood, red human blood, spread across the white floor. Chaos erupted in the great hall. Guards rushed toward the crowd, searching for the attacker. People screamed and ran for the doors. Commander Thalos shouted orders to his soldiers, but Sira did not run. She fell to her knees beside Marcus, her silver eyes wide with fear and shock. Marcus. Marcus, no. He looked up at her. His vision was blurry. The pain was incredible, but he managed to smile. "Told you," he whispered. "I do not let people die on my watch." Sarah pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her tears fell on his face, cool and soft. "Do not die," she begged. "Please do not die. You cannot save me twice and then leave me." The Queen was there too, kneeling beside him. Her purple eyes were filled with horror. She was shouting for doctors, for help, for someone to save the human who had just saved her daughter again. Marcus felt himself getting lighter. The pain was fading. The world was getting dark around the edges. "It is okay," he said to Sarah. "You are safe. That is all that matters." "No." Sarah shook her head fiercely. "You matter too. You are not allowed to die. I order you as a princess. You are not allowed to die." Marcus would have laughed if he had the strength. A princess ordering him to live. That was funny. That was very funny. He closed his eyes. The last thing he heard was Sarah crying his name. When he woke up, he was in a bed made of clouds. At least, that is what it felt like. The softest bed he had ever been in. The sheets were smooth like water. The pillows were gentle like air. He opened his eyes and saw a white ceiling above him. He was in a medical room, but not like any medical room he had seen before. Everything was clean and bright and beautiful. Machines hummed quietly around him, doing things he did not understand. His shoulder hurt, but it was a healing hurt, not a dying hurt. He looked down and saw bandages wrapped around his chest and arm. Someone had fixed him. Someone had saved him. "You are awake." He turned his head and saw Sarah sitting beside his bed. She looked tired. There were dark circles under her silver eyes. She looked like she had been crying for a long time. "How long?" Marcus asked. His voice was rough. 3 days, Sarah said. "You almost died." The doctors said it was very close. They said your human body was strong, but the wound was deep. They said it was a miracle you survived. Marcus thought about that. 3 days. He had been asleep for 3 days. That was a long time? The attacker? He asked. "God," Sarah said. "He was a rebel who did not want me to return. He thought my return would make the Empire stronger. He wanted to stop that." She reached out and took his hand. "But he failed. Because of you." Marcus squeezed her hand weakly. "I am glad you are safe. I am glad you are alive." Sarah leaned forward and looked at him with those silver eyes. "You saved me twice, Marcus Cole. Once in the darkness of space. Once in front of the whole Empire. I do not know how to repay you." Marcus shook his head slightly. "I do not need payment. I told you before. I just do what anyone would do." Sarah smiled through her tears. "And I told you before. You do what a good person would do. And you are the best person I have ever known." She leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. Her lips were cool and soft. "Rest now," she said. "You have earned it." Marcus closed his eyes. He was still in pain. He was still confused about everything. But he was alive. And Sarah was safe. For now, that was enough. Marcus spent 3 more weeks in the Palace Medical Center. The Velen doctors were very good at their job. They healed his shoulder with technology that humans did not have yet. They fixed the muscle and bone and skin until it was almost as good as new. There would be a scar, they said. But the scar would fade with time. During those 3 weeks, he had many visitors. Commander Thalos came every few days to check on him. The commander had changed since they first met. He no longer looked at Marcus like garbage. He looked at Marcus like a brother. "I was wrong about humans," Thalos said one day. "I thought your people were weak and selfish. I thought you only cared about yourselves. But you proved me wrong, twice." "I am not all humans," Marcus said. "I am just one man. Yes, Talos agreed. But one man can change everything. One man can show what is possible. One man can make an entire empire think differently. He put his hand on Marcus's good shoulder. You are that man, Marcus Cole, whether you want to be or not. The Queen came to visit as well. She came every single day, even when she was busy with the business of running an empire. She sat beside his bed and talked to him about many things. She told him about her daughter when she was young. She told him about the years of grief and searching. She told him about the hope that never quite died, even when it should have. I never stopped believing she was alive, Queen Lyra said. Everyone told me I was foolish. Everyone told me to accept the truth and move on. But I could not. A mother knows when her child is gone. And I always knew Sarah was still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. And you were right, Marcus said. I was right. But I did not find her. You did. She smiled at him, and it was a real smile, not the cold royal smile he had seen in pictures. The universe has a strange sense of humor. I prayed for a miracle for 87 years. And the miracle came in the form of a stubborn human with a broken coffee machine. Marcus laughed at that. It hurt his shoulder, but it was worth it. Princess Sarah came to visit most often of all. She came in the morning and stayed until night. She read to him from vellum books. She told him stories about her childhood. She asked him questions about Earth and listened carefully to his answers. I want to see your world someday, she said. I want to see the ocean and the mountains. I want to taste the food you told me about. Pizza and hamburgers and ice cream. You would like ice cream, Marcus said. Everyone likes ice cream. Will you take me there? When you are healed. Marcus looked at her. She was serious. A princess of the Velen Empire wanted to visit Earth with him. If you want, he said. But it is not as beautiful as Velaris. It is messier, louder, dirtier. That sounds perfect, Sarah said. I have had enough of perfect. I want to see something real. On the day Marcus was declared fully healed, Queen Lyris held another ceremony. This time, the security was even stronger. There were guards everywhere. There were scanners and shields and weapons ready for any threat. But there was no threat this time. Only celebration. The great hall was full again, packed with Velen from all over the empire. They had come to see the human who had saved their princess. They had come to see the man who had taken an energy blast for her. They had come to see if the stories were true. Marcus walked into the hall feeling uncomfortable in his fancy clothes. He did not like being the center of attention. He did not like having thousands of eyes watching him. But he walked forward anyway, because the Queen had asked him to. Queen Lyris stood on the stage, dressed in her royal robes. Princess Sarah stood beside her, glowing with health and happiness. Commander Thalos stood nearby, watching everything with careful eyes. People of the Velen Empire, the Queen said, her voice filling the hall. Weeks ago, I stood here to celebrate my daughter's return. That celebration was interrupted by violence and hate. But today, we finish what we started. She looked at Marcus, and her eyes were warm. Marcus Cole of Earth, come forward. Marcus walked up the steps to the stage. His legs felt weak. His heart was beating fast. He stood before the Queen and tried not to fall down. You found my daughter in the darkness when no one else could. You nursed her back to health with your own hands. You brought her to safety when you could have taken her for ransom or left her to die. And when death came for her a second time, you stepped in front of it without hesitation. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small golden pin. It was shaped like a star with a shield behind it. I name you Sarah's Shield. This title has not been given in 1,000 years. It is reserved for those who protect the royal family with their life. You have earned it more than anyone in history. She pinned the golden star to his chest. The crowd cheered. The sound was so loud that Marcus could feel it in his bones. But the queen was not finished. "There is more," she said, raising her hand for silence. "For too long, the Velen Empire has kept its distance from humanity. We thought your people were beneath us. We thought you had nothing to offer. We were wrong." She turned to face the crowd. "Today, I sign a treaty of friendship with Earth, the first of its kind. From this day forward, humans and Velen will work together, trade together, and learn from each other. And it is all because one human showed us what your people are capable of. Not war, not greed, not conquest, but kindness. Simple, stubborn, irrational kindness." The crowd was silent for a moment. Then the cheering started again, louder than before. Marcus stood on the stage, feeling overwhelmed by it all. He was just a cargo hauler. He was nobody special. He did not deserve any of this. But then he looked at Sarah, and she was smiling at him. And he thought maybe he did deserve it, just a little. After the ceremony, Marcus went back to the drifter. His ship was still docked at the palace, cleaned and repaired by Vaughn engineers. They had fixed his coffee machine. That was nice of them. He was checking the engines when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw Sarah walking toward him. "You are leaving," she said. It was not a question. "I have to," Marcus said. "I am not made for palaces and ceremonies. I need to be out there flying. It is who I am." Sarah nodded slowly. "I understand. But I will miss you. I will miss you too, little star." She smiled at the nickname. Then she stepped forward and hugged him. She was warm and soft and smelled like the blue flowers from the garden. "You could stay," she said into his shoulder. "You would want for nothing. I would make sure of it. I know." Marcus hugged her back. "But I am a drifter. It is what I do." He let go of her and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small communicator, old and scratched but reliable. "This is connected to my ship," he said, pressing it into her hand. "Direct line. Anywhere in the galaxy. If you ever need me, for anything, you call, and I will come." Sarah looked at the communicator like it was the most precious thing in the universe. She held it tight against her chest. "I will call," she said. "Not because I need help, but because I want to hear your voice." Marcus smiled. "That works too." He walked back into the drifter and started the engines. Through the window, he could see Sarah standing on the dock, watching him. The Queen was there too, and Commander Thelos, and a crowd of Velen who had come to see him off. He waved at them. They waved back. Then he flew away, into the stars, back to the life he knew. Back to cargo runs and empty space and broken coffee machines. Back to being nobody special, but something had changed. The galaxy felt different now. Humans and Velen were talking to each other, trading with each other, learning from each other. A wall that had stood for centuries was starting to come down. And it was all because of one simple act. One decision to help someone who was dying. One refusal to ignore a cry for help. Marcus Cole was not a hero. He never wanted to be a hero. He was just a man who could not say no when someone needed him. But maybe that was what heroes really were. Not people with powers or weapons or titles. Just people who helped. Just people who cared. Just people who did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. He flew on through the stars, thinking about the princess he had saved. Thinking about the queen who had thanked him. Thinking about the empire that had changed its mind about humans. And somewhere in his pocket, next to his heart, he felt the weight of the golden pen. Sarah's shield. He smiled. It had been a strange few weeks. But he would not trade them for anything. Somewhere behind him, on a beautiful planet of crystal and light, a princess held a communicator and watched the stars. She was thinking about a human with kind eyes and rough hands. A human who had found her in the darkness and carried her home. Years ago, the queen had lost her daughter today. A human had carried her home, and nothing would ever be the same again.